Well, happy new era, everybody. This is now a few days into the 2013, and I've put up a few videos, and I haven't found them entirely satisfactory. Perhaps because I've been focusing, as most people who are trying to join the dots do, on the past, to see where things have built up and where ideas have come from and how they brought us to this point today. I suppose just briefly to address the issue of the war of ideas which seems to surround our world, that brings about a situation where the United States is, unless very carefully led and appropriately directed, will be living out a lot of the blowback from its previous misbehavior. We can see this every day now, where young men in the military, recognizing how that they have become a part of a regime very close to the form developed by the Nazis, fascism and military violence and so on, to keep populations and people in line, is simply not acceptable to the American doughboy, as they used to be called. And I'm reminded once again, and I suggest anybody who's really interested in developing an understanding of the role and situation of the United States, because the people of the United States have been put into a desperate condition by a series of mismanagements on a grand scale, largely of course dominated by the banking industry and the old families and the old connections and historical confusions that come from that, and good ideas that just need development and so on, given good names that they can be identified, like socialism, are simply just kicked off to one side and say no, 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 without realization that those are really the foundations of understanding, like perhaps Christianity, like religions generally, for the well-being of the common people. Now, I see I'm a commoner, and I identify with the lower working class service people, because those are the kinds of occupations that I've observed close hand, and I realize to what extent from that basis on, people are really subjected to a form of economic slavery that has really no place in a civilized society at all. How to deal with those questions? Well, again, I'm going to be stuck in the past. Let's move forward. For instance, for April this year, I'm still pondering how to really readdress the issue of a none of the above option on the ballot, because I'm sure this is old hat to anyone who's been following my efforts to communicate with the broader government and the people generally that care to listen to what I'm saying, and whether to go back to court and try that route. I don't have much hope in that direction, and anyway, I really don't have the resources to go there, although I've still engaged the interest of a lawyer to the extent that when we get our heads together and decide whether this is the path, then maybe that will be the path. It will be at short notice, so a short motion perhaps to stay the election until some matters which are forensically demonstrable as being corrupt around the electoral process to be brought to the fore. So these are matters which are a little out, still rattling around in my mind and bring me to have to address the public in this fashion. That's a long-winded bit, but I am deeply concerned about the conditions in the United States, not to go back there. How do we move forward? Well, let's assume for argument's sake that I'm unable to be successful in the court to get the chief electoral officer or the lieutenant governor or anybody else to take seriously the fact that the common people in British Columbia are very dissatisfied with all the parties, and the hierarchy structure of parties just leads them down the hollow end to sustaining themselves in a good position. It's not a healthy state for any democracy to function by. The alternative, that is the none of the above, men and women's circles seeking accord on a tribal basis as the first step towards honourable settlement, as an addition to any conventional government that cares to continue to resist, I suppose is one way to go, and I believe that should be established as soon as possible. That, I think, is something for the future and not very far distant in the future. I'm 100% in favour of the idle no more, and that's why I'm not being as restrained perhaps in offering the kinds of directions that I believe we should be going. And I think if we had this, if we're unable to get the none of the above on the ballot, then please register to vote. And unless you're really addicted to going the merry-go-round of this party or that party, I suggest you don't vote at all. Now, in the event that less than 50% of the people in British Columbia vote in this next election, as they did in previous elections, or spoil their ballots, or offer any kind of new alternative, then I think we have to have something like a constituent assembly, and that I think is quite different from the previous form that was pushed on to the people of British Columbia by the Liberals many years ago when they brought on the Citizens' Assembly. I believe a constituent assembly is the way to go, and I believe that can be organised entirely separately from any government input and done from a grassroots base. And I think the idle no more people are quite capable of at least setting up men and women's drum circles, and I think this way we would begin to unite around the basis of our uniqueness and our distinctions and our differences as much as where it's been in the past. Further to that, I think that by, I would say this time 2014, I think that we will have a new quality of peace in the air, and I think within 5 years we'll be firmly entrenched in a new age where we live together happily, harmoniously, courageously, leisurely, productively, and not wastefully. I think that there's a future for all of us in a world at peace, and I think the warmongers will be restrained, the banksters will be restrained, and dirty tricks and blue meanness will be laughed out of the game, because now I think things are becoming very transparent. And as they become more transparent, then I think we'll understand what has been going down, and many of us predicted would go down and hoped against God it would not go down, and raised the whistle all those years ago. For me, that's more than 40 years now since I blew the whistle on the banksters with the Governor General in Canada over the fact that Mr. Trudeau was exceeding his authority then. And that's led us down the path to this complicity that's been carried on in cabinet secrecy, and they diddle with money and prevent there being honourable settlement with the Aboriginal people so that people can live in dignity and can live on their lands in dignity, and we can live on their lands in dignity for maybe, 3 generations, and then we accept. In my own case, I believe I came when I was 24, and I think by the time I was 48, well, I felt as much native here as I felt from anywhere else. Now I'm 76, and I'm firmly entrenched in the idea that this indeed may be where my bones lie. And if that's the only thing that lies around here, that'll be a start. Okay, God bless. Happy New Era. We're here for a new era, and it's going to be a glorious and leisurely and harmonious and adventurous time. Thanks for your attention. God bless. Happy trails. Thank you all.